Chapter 9. The Gangster with the Baby Face. Following Dillinger's death, Nelson became public enemy number one, and reveled in the glory of being the head gangster in the country. Nelson was characterized by Hoover as the most notorious of the gangsters who plagued the Midwest during the early 1930s. "I hope the chief will leave me on this assignment until Babyface Nelson is in the bag," Inspector Cowley told fellow agent Jack DeWitt in the Chicago field office. "Nelson is the most dangerous one of the lot. People put Dillinger on some sort of pedestal. They did not know him as I did. They know little or nothing about Babyface. But I know that as long as he is alive, he is a dangerous menace to peace-loving persons. Wherever he goes, he is a killer, a vicious, crazy killer." No one was better informed of the dangers society faced with Nelson at large than was Sam Cowley. However, it was to his chief, Hoover, that Cowley gave the credit for every phase of the removal of Pretty Boy Floyd, every move in tracking down Dillinger, and every bit of detective work tracing the vicious gunman Nelson. "Inspector Cowley never sought publicity," DeWitt explained. "I knew when I talked with him in Chicago that he was the man in whom J. Edgar Hoover had placed great trust and great respect when he assigned him to take the active lead in routing Dillinger from his Chicago hideout. There were traits about Nelson that were studied daily by Cowley before the gunman himself was aware of them. The inspector had already accumulated a swelling file on Nelson. When Dillinger died, orders from Washington left the dark-eyed, quiet, and gentlemanly Cowley still on the trail of Nelson, the nation's worst enemy. A glance at the records showed him that the country held a terrible score against the undersized murderer. A careful study of the records and facts Cowley had compiled informed him of every quirk and phase, every psychological oddity in Nelson's nature. Cowley knew that it was only by possession of such facts that he could hope to capture the wily Nelson. "There's still a mountain of work to be done," Cowley told DeWitt. "Even when Nelson is accounted for, we'll have to swing into mopping up after a main attack." "Mr. Hoover was a dynamic personality to begin with," Cowley related. "The men under him know that he is capable, fair, and at the same time firm, and a believer in strong discipline." Agents in the Bureau, working tirelessly toward the end of ridding the country of the Dillingers and Nelsons, were spokes in the wheel of justice, DeWitt observed. Hoover was the hub, and one of the most important spokes was Samuel P. Cowley. "I hardly think enough credit has been given the chief. It is he who engineers these things. I am merely a cog in the machinery," Cowley related. The Bureau men in every city in America seemed to have the same respect and deep feelings for their chief. This perfect coordination with Hoover had engendered in the department, and the respect that every agent and inspector felt for him kept the number of investigators working, not for personal glory, but for the speedy conclusion of the department's work. Because Cowley believed he might be working in Chicago for a lengthy period, he invited his wife, Lawman, and their 2 boys to visit him at his apartment. "I made periodic trips to Chicago by train," Lawman said, "taking baby Sam and sometimes taking his 3-year-old brother John for a 2-week stay. Their 2 sons were the glory of their lives." Sam often sent for Lawman and the boys when his out-of-town assignments would allow, and he took every opportunity to visit his extended family when he was assigned to cities where they lived. He carried his love for all of his family throughout his life. George Babyface Nelson was born Lester Joseph Gillis, December 6, 1908, in Chicago. His parents were Joseph and Mary Gillis, Belgian immigrants who had to struggle to adapt to life in America. Lester grew up in the streets with tough comrades who dubbed him Babyface due to his juvenile looks. He was also described as something out of a bad dream. He became one of the toughest and certainly the most heartless of the Depression-era gangsters. FBI files note, by age 14, Nelson was accomplished at stealing tires, running stills, bootlegging, and armed robbery. In 1922, he was convicted of auto theft and confined to the Chicago Boys' Home. Soon after his release, he was caught burglarizing a department store and was returned to the boys' home. Seeking adventure, Lester threw himself in with underworld kingpin Al Capone as an enforcer, one who used strong-arm tactics to persuade labor leaders to go along with Capone's operation, so the gangsters could gain control of the labor unions.